Today I'm going to be installing a chain and sprocket kit, as we can see right here. And first thing I'm going to do is take off the front sprocket cover. We've got two bolts holding it in, there and there. So we're going to take those off. We might have to take the shift rod off as well. Turns out there's another bolt hiding in here by my finger that I'm going to have to take out first before we can move forward. So after we've got the front sprocket cover off, you can finally see it now. And if we get in close, there's two tabs, one here and one here, that are bent in a little bit to make sure that nut doesn't come off. So we're going to have to bend those out with a screwdriver and then try to get this thing off. There's a whole lot of talk about this nut being really hard to get off. All I had to do is stand on the bike itself and put my foot on the back brake while the chain was still on, connected to the back tire, and just use a 24-inch breaker bar right here and turn it left just like a normal bolt, and it broke pretty easily. So got that off. There's a little washer in there too. And next I'm going to move on to probably cutting the chain off. Be back in a bit. Might be a good idea while you still have the chain on the bike to go ahead and get someone to hold the brake lever down and just get these sprocket nuts broken back here. I did it by myself with this, but I highly recommend something longer than that because it was very difficult. But anyway, moving on. Since I'm going to try to cut the chain with this, and I can't seem to find a good spot that has enough clearance at the moment, I'm going to go ahead and take the chain guard off so that I could get right in here and pop one of those rivets out. So I'm just going to undo this bolt here, one at the top, and one in there at the front, and take the chain guard off real quick. Here's the rivet that came out the other side. That's the ungrinded end, and that's the ground down end. But as you can see, there's not a whole lot of flare at the end of the stock chain, at least. So maybe I could have just pushed it right through without grinding. Who knows? But anyway, now I got to take the grinder off. The chain will come loose, and I'll be chainless and ready to take the rear wheel off and get that rear sprocket off. So now with the remains of the old chain all taken care of, I highly recommend you clean that front sprocket a bit because mine is caked up with all kinds of dirt. So I'm going to take a couple minutes to do that. And also, we're going to remove this rear tire. Let's go ahead and pop that on there and remove the axle nut, and the rear is going to slide right off. So I took the rear wheel off, and I just replaced the axle there now so that this doesn't go, rear brake caliper doesn't go running off. It's just floating on there. So next I'm going to do is take each of these nuts off. Remember, I loosened them before, that's why they're pretty easy now that it's off the bike. Make sure you loosen those before you take it away from the brake. Makes it a lot easier. So we're going to take each of those off, and then we'll take the sprocket off and put the new one on. Now that the old sprocket's off, I just laid the new one on top, put the washers from my stock sprocket on there, and I'm going to be putting my new sprocket bolts. Got some nice blue ones from ProBolt. Gonna put those on there with some blue Loctite, and I'll worry about torquing it down when it's back on the wheel and I can use the brake. I'm gonna go ahead and slide the front sprocket on as well. I'm gonna put the lip and the branding facing outside. Just like that. It's black, so it's really hard to see with this light. And put the old washer back on there. And the old nut. Actually, I'm going to want to put some Loctite on that before I put it back on, so it doesn't come off, as well as pinching those things back in once we get it all on. So once I stop the camera, I'm going to go ahead and Loctite it. So I've got the rear wheel put back on. Still no chain yet, but I made sure to keep the axle loose so you can slide it backwards and forwards there on the swing arm, because we may have to cut the chain down for length or adjust the chain slack when we put it on. So for now, keep that loose until you know the exact size and tension you need to be. I round the chain around, and you can see here's where the master link, I'm just holding it on for right now. I don't have the O-rings on it either. I just put it on there to check the chain length, and it looks like I'm pretty good. I'm going towards the end of the swing arm there, but I'm going to try it for a few days, make sure it's tight, and if it works, it works, but if not, I'll just take a link out later on. But so now I'm ready to actually put the master link in and rivet it down. Got the little kit right here. It's got the four, they're all pooped up with gunk right now, but it's got the 4 X-rings in there, and so I'll pop this master link back out, put them through the way they're supposed to according to this diagram, so 2 against each side basically on the inside of the plates, and I'll bring it back when we're at that point. So now everything is installed. Got my master link put in place there, and you see the chain's incredibly loose right now. I'm gonna push out the axle block sliders there and tighten it up a bit, make sure it's all aligned, and that's about it. To rivet the link, I just used the rivet tool, just followed the instructions on it. It's pretty simple. Just make sure you don't over tighten the rivet and bind the plates, but otherwise just follow the instructions on whichever chain tool you have. The one by RK gave me excellent instructions, so just followed them. Everything's on, and now I just have to tighten everything back up to the proper torque settings, and front and back, make sure you tighten that, and your sprocket bolts back down, make sure they're all tight, and put everything back together, and should be all good to go.